Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining today's webinar. This is the sixth event from our Sterile Filling 101 webinar series, and today we will discuss why your container enclosure choice matter in sterile fill finish. The takeaways from this event will include what matters in deciding your container closure system, avoiding supply chain issues and how to find the right CMO to fill your product, and what new container closure systems are entering the fill finish industry. Today we have from Berkshire Sterile the Project Management Manager, Steve Gardner, and Process Engineering Manager, Dr. Jake Kranz, to speak. We also have two guests from Aptar Pharma, including Senior Regional Market Development Manager, Arnaud Fournier, and the Technical Product Manager for PremiumCoat projects at Aptar Pharma, Sebastian Cordier. My name is Sarah, and I will be your host for today. Very quickly, we welcome your questions during this presentation. To ask a question, select the arrow in the toolbar at the right-hand side of your screen, write in your question, and click send. Now that's out of the way, let's get started. So I first want to invite Steve Gardner at Berkshire Sterile to speak. Steve, can you describe how most clients decide on a container closure system?
Hi, Sarah. Yes, most clients have a container enclosure picked out before they come to us to fill. They know what size and container type, whether a vial, a syringe, or cartridge, they want to fill in, but their selection isn't solidified. For approximately 70% of the customers, this is the case. For any client that hasn't decided on their container closure system, we can and have done compatibility studies as a part of the process development. Usually, when a client is deciding on a container closure system, they care about these three qualities in the order that they are listed. Product compatibility is obviously most important. Will the container comfortably fit the volume of product the client needs? Is the closure selection going to work for that container? Are there any drug product sensitivities? What are the extractables and leachables for this closure system? Second is the quality of selected components. Third would probably be the availability. The decisions we've seen our clients make are heavily influenced by these three features, and some clients have already decided on a container closure system, but they may have trouble finding a CMO to fill their product into it because it is a unique or specialty container closure system. Some clients are more willing to change their container closure to better fit the needs of their CMO, others are not. Your fill finish CMO will care about the compatibility of the product on their filling line, which Jake will get into later.
Thank you, Steve. Let's discuss that now. Jake, can you describe how compatibility can differ for each filling line and what the CMO cares about when filling in a container closure system?
Hi, Sarah. As Steve said, compatibility with the filling line. That's what your CMO will care about most when they're filling your product. The CMO will want to know that they can get the job done and they can get it done right. So, do your components require sterilization? Does the CMO have the capability to sterilize your container or component? Can the filling line fill the container type and size? Can the filling line pick up and properly place components? Do you require vent tube plungering or vacuum plungering? Can your CMO perform this? Is your component compatible with your container? It's happened before where we go into the fill study and begin stoppering vials and the stoppers pop right back out after they're placed. And even if a cap were placed over the stopper to hold it in place, that incompatibility poses a sterility concern. My job at BSM involves finding solutions to ensure our filling line is compatible with our client's choice of container or component, and that all pieces of the primary packaging are appropriate for the drug product and each other. Even minute differences in components will decide whether a container closure system will be manufacturable on a filling line or compatible with each other. For example, a little over a year ago, we were preparing to fill a product using a container closure system that we knew worked well together and that we had all the right size parts for. We have several change parts that allow us to adjust our filler to fill vials, syringes, and cartridges of all different sizes and shapes. And for this particular stopper, we already had a stopper bowl, a hub, and a flipper for it. However, in the fill study, we found that the stoppers would not flow into the hub properly, and the flipper would not pick up the stoppers. This required a lot of interventions to fix. We looked at the stoppers closely and realized that it wasn't the same mold as what we were used to getting. Here's a photo of the serum stopper we had next to a similar serum stopper that was manufactured by the same company months before. These are different serum stoppers, yes, but the flange should have been the same. As you can see, the newly manufactured stopper has a curved flange and the old manufactured stopper has a straight edge flange. This was enough to cause issues with our change parts. So we had to manufacture a new stopper hub and a new flipper to make this component compatible with our filling line. Sure enough, a few months later, we received an email from the manufacturer that they changed their manufacturing line to a new location where the stoppers were made slightly differently. Here's another more recent story. I designed a flipper with pickup pins just 10 1/1000ths of an inch larger than those on a flipper we already have in order to properly pick up a new component. Anything smaller, and the flipper would not pick up the stoppers. So, unfortunately, even if the components are standardized in size, they're not always close enough to work. We must test the components on our filling lines and with the container you choose to ensure that they all work together properly. Many of our clients do not have a certain container closure selected when they come to us. Whether your product formulation is demanding or easy, or high risk or low risk, we can offer suggestions for container closure systems that we know are compatible with one another, our filling lines, your product, and are high quality. But let's discuss some things to know about your container closure and how it affects your product and filling requirements. Your closure choice can affect your drug product's stability. Most stoppers are composed of pharmaceutical rubber only, but getting a stopper with a fluoropolymer film that's laminated to the plug of the stopper where the drug contacts the stopper is best to limit leaching, especially if your product has a strong solvent in it. We perform stability studies at BSM, and we actually set the containers at two positions, upright and on their side, to determine any differences in stability of the drug product if the product's in contact with the stopper or plunger. Now let's discuss different containers and how they differ. In vials, there are 3 different vial neck finishes: American blowback, European blowback, and no blowback. No blowback vials have flat necks with nothing to capture the stopper if it begins to pop out. And this is my biggest critique with this type of vial design. It's critical that the stopper remains in place when it's set in a vial. This provides a seal that protects the sterility of the drug product until the stopper can be tightly fitted by a cap. If the stopper pops out of the vial, then it's not protecting the sterility of that filled vial, and there's a much greater risk of contamination. The stopper should have a good dimensional fit with the inner vial neck, so it doesn't lift after being placed, or, in the worst case scenario, completely pop out. Capping will help hold the stopper to the flange of the vial, but the stopper should already have a good seal with the vial without a cap compressing it. We've had problems with stoppers popping out of the vials after they're placed into the vial with no blowback vials. Pop stoppers are rare at BSM, but when it happens, it will more often happen on vials with no blowback. The American blowback and European blowback vials both have a lip that is meant to hold the stopper in place and prevent it from popping out after stoppering. The European blowback is standardized, and the size and placement of the lip will be more consistent when you purchase from different suppliers than what you find with American blowback. But besides the shape, the difference between the two is negligible. They both do the job. They're both just different styles. They don't require special stoppers, but of course, like I mentioned earlier, your choice of stopper and vial might not fit together as well as you expect, even if they're standardized, so you'll need to test their compatibility regardless. Finally, we'll briefly discuss glass delamination. This is a serious issue that could arise months or years after your product is filled, where the glass from the vial, syringe, or cartridge that's in contact with your product can shed into the drug product solution. And this is a problem for obvious reasons. Glass delamination is rare, but there are some factors that increase risk of it occurring. If you have a product with a pH greater than or equal to 8, or if you use citrate and tartrate buffers, then this could influence glass delamination, especially if you store the product at room temperature. If the product is terminally sterilized, that also poses a greater risk of glass delamination. If the formulation can be changed to avoid these characteristics, then that'd be ideal. But realistically, changing the characteristics will usually change the safety or efficacy of the drug product. So it may be better to look at the vial instead and make an informed choice to mitigate risk of delamination through careful decisions. Pharmaceutical glass is made with type 1 borosilicate glass that has good chemical resistance, and these come in all sorts of presentations: vials, pre-filled syringes, cartridges, ampules, and more. High alkali content in glass can accelerate erosion, and high temperatures during the vial forming process can increase the risk of delamination. The manufacturer of the containers should have tight control over the temperatures that are used, and if the drug product formulation is corrosive, then it's best to test the formulation in that glass to ensure the container is suitable for the product. Another factor that will affect your decision is whether or not you decide to lyophilize your product. Vials are typically shaped in one of two ways. They can be molded, where hot glass is cut in gobs, then placed into a mold where the container is blown and pressed into shape. Or they can be tubular, where the glass is first formed into a tube, then the neck and base are formed afterwards by reheating those areas and sculpting them with tools. Tubular glass vials are typically better for lyophilization because they have a more uniform surface that provides a more consistent heat transfer. They're also easier to visually inspect because their walls are thinner and more even. But because they're heated twice and usually placed under greater heat, they're more prone to delamination. Molded vials have more mechanical strength. There are some companies that have an advanced molding technique so they can provide the mechanical strength of molded vials and the surface uniformity of tubular vials, which make them a better container closure option. We've used this type of molded vial for lyophilized products before, and it works well. We currently have several customers with plastic crystal zenith vials instead of glass because their drug product was not compatible with glass. This eliminates any risk of glass delamination, but it also comes with some of its own challenges. For example, plastic is much easier to scratch, and where most filling lines are processing these containers with stainless steel tools, they're much more prone to becoming scratched, and this can lead to cosmetic rejects. So it's all a balance to determine what your product will need. But for the majority of products, it's best to use a stopper or plunger with an ETFE fluoropolymer film to reduce the risk of leaching, and a vial with a blowback, either American or European. You should also be mindful of any product properties that could increase the risk of delamination. And if you're concerned that this would be likely for your product, then test your container with your formulation to confirm its resilience. The best thing a client can do is be flexible with their container and component choice. You should have an idea of what you need, but it's best to allow your fill-finish CMO to help guide you in selecting the container closure system to ensure you have a harmonious container closure system that's compatible with your fill-finish CMO. We have great relationships with several companies such as Ompi, Schott, Dottweiler, and, of course, Aptar, among others. And our process engineering group and project managers know of many high-quality and compatible container closure systems that will work for your drug product.
Thank you, Jake. I think we can jump to Aptar now for a perspective on the supplier side. I'm going to invite Ano to speak. Ano, can you describe on your end what the decision process looks like for the customer?
Hi, Sarah. Of course. When a client is selecting a stopper or plunger for their drug, there are several important factors that they need to evaluate. The first one is the compatibility with the drug. What are the extractable and leachable? How they will impact the quality and safety of the drug? Can the drug be packaged with a regular stopper, or will it need an ETFE coated stopper in order to reduce the ENL? The second I will consider is the compatibility with the filling lines. For example, with a pre-filled syringe, is the plunger compatible with the vent tube filling, or does it require vacuum filling? The third one is related to the patient usability. How much break loose force does it take to initiate movement of the plunger? How smoothly does the plunger glide to inject a dose safely to the patient without causing any discomfort? And finally, above all else, protecting the patient. For example, if you have a multi-dose vial, how resistant is the stopper to multi-piercing? Does it self-seal effectively after each dose to protect sterility? I will go through each of these in details to explain why they're important, because the choice of a container can impact the product, the CMO, and the patient. So let's start with the compatibility of the stopper with the drug. The most significant concern regarding compatibility is extractable and leachables, or ENL. So what are the extractable? They are chemical compounds that can be extracted from the stopper under severe condition, like in presence of a strong solvent or high heat. For leachable, they are very often a subset of the extractable. They are compounds that come from the container and that leach into the drug under normal conditions this time, and they may represent a toxicological risk. So the FDA requires ENL testing in order to demonstrate that extractable and leachable could not harm the patient. Most of the time, glass will have little or even no effect on the drug product, which is one of the reasons why it's so popular material on the market today. With the elastomeric component, the stopper or the plunger is the usual suspect for any ENL issues, but I will let Sebastian cover that later. And at Aptar Pharma, what we can do, we can share extractable file with our rubber formulation. We can also even perform extractable and leachable testing customized for a customer in order to support the development. And also on the other side, on the product side, we have our new PremiumCoat platform that can limit the ENL. So I move to the compatibility with the filling lines. And unfortunately, you cannot just select your favorite container closure and your favorite CMO and expect that it is compatible each time. As you know very well, each CMO's filling line is unique, so you need to adjust. Even with standardized container closure system from different suppliers, you can have unique shapes that can cause incompatibility issues, like Jack mentioned earlier. So very often, the client will need to be aware of their component finishing and their CMO's plunger insertion process. So I will spend a little bit more time on pre-filled syringes today and start with the vent tube stoppering, which is probably the most common method when we are talking plunger insertion today. So how does it work, vent tube stoppering? So the plunger is loaded into a tube, then compressed. The tube is then inserted into the pre-filled syringe, and the rod pushes the plunger out of the correct position. Then the plunger expands and it creates the seal. But in some cases, vent tube stopperings may not be the appropriate choice. It's especially true with some coated plunger that you can find on the market today, or when there is a need to reduce the air bubble in the syringe. The fact is that by forcing a stopper through the compressed tube, you can rub off the coating. So that could be an issue in terms of compatibility with the drug. So also the plunger must be well positioned in order that no liquid gets trapped in the ribs of the plunger, which could be considered as a sterility reject. So in these cases, usually the vacuum stoppering is preferred. So vacuum stoppering involves pulling a vacuum on the syringe until the set pressure is reached, then pushing a stopper into the pre-filled syringe with a rod. The plunger will then travel into the barrel of the syringe until it compresses the vacuum. This leaves a small air bubble and it doesn't strip the coat of the coated plunger. But when we are talking the PremiumCoat plungers, this is one of them advantages because they can be compatible with both methods of insertion. So now let's discuss the patient usability. The packaging for your drug is a vital component of the patient experience and usability. For example, if the product is a syringe, you always want the product to be easy to administer. It should have a low break-loose force and a consistent gliding force in order to inject safely and without generating pain to the patient. And it's even more true when the syringe is used in an auto-injector. Finally, the most important aspect of your container closure system is how it affects the patient safety. This is especially relevant for the multi-dose vials. If you package multiple doses in a single vial, like it was the case or still the case with the COVID vaccine, the stopper will need to have good self-sealing properties to maintain the sterility of the vial after each dose is taken. At Aptar Pharma, what we demonstrated is with the robust testing that we perform, we have demonstrated the resilience of our 20 millimeter PremiumCoat stopper by piercing them 3 sealed vials with the stoppers 10 times per stopper, then submerging the vial in a color solution. Then we pull the vacuum, then return to the solution back to the atmospheric pressure, and stoppers with poor self-sealing would leak into the vial, which was not the case with our PremiumCoat stopper. So that's very positive. After all this process is done, after having selected their container and their stopper according ENL, the usability, the compatibility with the filling line, and the other topics like CCIT that I haven't mentioned today, the remaining concern of our customers is how to avoid the supply chain issues. As you know, the industry experienced some of the worst delays during the pandemic and forced many companies to look ahead to secure their supply chains to avoid these issues. The best way is to partner with a strong supplier, and especially one that is always growing. At Aptar Pharma, we support our customer with the products, of course, but also with data and analytical services like ENL, CCIT, and particle analysis to facilitate our customer journeys. And we are actively increasing our capacities and capabilities to ensure that our customers have a long-term supply secured, whatever the closure they need.
Thank you, Anil. I know that Aptar has a new coating for stoppers and plungers to help improve safety. Sebastian was going to cover this. Why don't you tell us about this?
Hi, Sarah. Yes, Aptar offers film-coated stoppers and plungers to reduce extractable and leachables, while also offering the advantage of bromobutyl rubber, a reduction of particulate and defect. These components are made with a pure state-of-art bromobutyl formulation, and they are then coated with an ETFE film. ETFE is a type of plastic film that is highly resistant to corrosion, chemically inert, resistant to strong solvents, and has low permeability to liquid, gas, moistures, and organic vapors, leading to a high filtering effect. We perform a simulation to test the efficiency of ETFE coating in reduction of ENL by filling several vials with water and ethanol, stoppering them with our PremiumCoat stoppers and non-coated stoppers using same formulation, stirring them in inverted position at 25 degrees Celsius for 12 months. After that incubation period, we remove the vial and analyze the solution by gas chromatography mass spectrometry for leached chemical. What we found, and what you can see here, is that the PremiumCoat stoppers with the ETFE film demonstrate that significantly less and fewer compounds leach into the solution versus the non-coated stoppers made with the same formulation, bromobutyl. The topic you can see with the asterisk is an internal standard that we had to each sample before the analysis. We leverage a state-of-art formulation and process and produce the same ETFE coating as market standard. These components are available in ready-to-use and with data and service package. Regarding functionality, test with ISO vials. Stoppers has shown a low risk of pop-off, long-term container closure integrity, and are able to withstand ultra-freezing temperature down to 90 degrees Celsius. They are versatile and compatible with both European blowback and non-blowback vials. The stoppers has shown also a low fragmentation, and compared to uncoated stoppers, has a minimized silicone level. Let's now move to our new PremiumCoat plungers. The plungers are compatible with both vent tube and vacuum plungering, so they will not limit our choice of CMO in this way. They have controlled gliding and break loose forces. Those are also compatible with cold storage down to minus 60 degrees Celsius. Currently, there are some new trends that we are seeing customers take to. New drug products that are reaching the market are increasingly more sensitive as most of small molecule products have been exhausted. And now the focus is on targeted and more complex medication. For this reason, coated stoppers have been requested for drug product compatibility. And clients are exploring primary packaging risk management strategy in their development. Components with demonstrated low particle level are being requested more and more from pharma companies we work with to minimize the risk of product development and product recall. We have noticed clients continue to lean toward higher value components. Many pharma companies want to accelerate their time to market, and high value components are less likely to generate issues during the validation of the drug. Higher the value, and higher quality component will also facilitate the drug development process. Finally, we have noticed that reduction time to market is vital to most pharma companies. The faster a drug product can reach the market, the more revenue the company will make. Any risk mitigation process can save millions. We have looked at these trends, and we are continuously improving our own business model to meet this demand, so we can best serve our customers. We have invested a lot of time and money to expand our production capacity. And this has, in turn, improved the lead time significantly for our customers when compared to other component suppliers. We have proprietary design and formulation that are recognized in the market as superior and of high quality. And we offer a lot of choice in product. We supply ready to sterilize and ready to use components, high value product, supporting data, responsiveness, customization, and also full service support.
Thank you, Sebastian. Although we did cover most of it, I would like to finish with Steve G. Steve, you were planning to discuss some common pitfalls with container closure systems. Can you describe what these are and how to avoid them?
Yes, there are two common but avoidable scenarios I've seen clients fall into, and that is selecting a component that is not in the same production phase as their product. For example, we had a couple of clients try to use non-GMP components for GMP purposes, and that can't be done. We have to review and release all chemicals and components and materials that will be used in your GMP fills to ensure that we are manufacturing your product with high quality, well-documented and known materials. A non-GMP component cannot be used for GMP purposes. And I have also seen clients put together a timeline and make commitments without confirming the supply chain availability. For example, we had a client that was eager to fill immediately. They had a specific syringe already picked out, and when we checked the lead times to get those syringes for them and get the fill on our schedule, we discovered that it would take over a year to source a syringe. Other components were also at 6 to 12 months. Supply chain issues have been significant and common recently. During the pandemic, we purchased years' worth of stock for common containers and components to help our clients avoid supply shortages. But there are still things that can be done to avoid a significant delay that could derail your project. Shop local when you can to avoid shipping or customs delays. We had a client that wanted to source a vial from Europe, and the lead time was over 26 weeks. We were able to purchase a similar container from a US supplier, and those arrived within 2 weeks. Select long lead time items like filters and container closures early in the product development process. Build flexibility into your material selections where you can, and be open to alternate vendors that your CMO might stock or have a favorable relationship regarding supplies. Like I said before, we purchased a lot of stock of common containers and closures. We currently have over $1 million worth of inventory at our facility. If you decide to fill at our site and you are set on a unique supplier or container type, then you may be waiting several months to get your container closure versus being able to start your project immediately with the items that we have on hand. If timeline is the most important and critical thing to your company or product, be prepared to pivot or change your plan in advance. Every project will have its own hurdles, and the more willing and prepared you are to change plans or make adjustments along the way will save you an immense amount of time and money in your journey to market. If you are completely unaware of what container closure would work well for your drug product, we do offer that support to our clients. Our process engineers and project managers are well versed in material selection and can help guide you in finding the right container closure system for your project.
Thank you, Steve. That is the end of today's presentation. In just a moment, we will transition to the Q&A portion of this webinar. Again, to ask a question, select the word bubble that appears in the toolbar at the right-hand side of your screen. An area to type in your question will appear. Write us your question and hit send, and we'll display those for our speakers. As part of today's event, you can also download the slide deck from today. Today's webinar is the 6th webinar of this series, Sterile Filling 101. All of our upcoming events are listed here, and recordings of previous webinars are available both on our website and on our YouTube page. In March, we will be airing our next webinar regarding filling unstable drug products. We will discuss techniques to protect your drug product during fill finish, labeling, distribution, and storage, and we will review several common drug product sensitivities and outline solutions to protect them during the fill finish process. Following the end of this event, I will be sending you an email with a sign-up link to each of these upcoming webinars, but you can also sign up to them by going directly to berkshiresterilmanufacturing.com/sterilefilling101, and the events will be listed there for you to register to. Okay, it looks like we've received all the questions we're going to get, so let's start with that first question. This one I'm going to direct towards Sebastian. The question is, what stopper or plunger composition would I need if I were to terminally sterilize my drug product?
The 6720 GC formulation has been developed to be compatible with terminal sterilization. Thus, PremiumCoat product may be the right choice.
Well said, Sebastian. I have a question for Jake. The question is, does the cap we select matter? What do we need to consider?
I think the cap does matter. Recent changes in caps that we use frequently at BSM have actually reduced the skirt length, which is how far down the aluminum comes over the neck of the vial. And by making it a little bit shorter, we had to do a surprising number of changes to our capping machines and process. So definitely consult your CMO about the cap you intend to use.
Thanks, Jake. I have another one for you. The question is, when will we need to evaluate our container closure system?
Another excellent question. It's important anytime you make a change to the container closure system that it's evaluated quantitatively by your CMO. This can take the form of an notebook study or even a high throughput protocol using a surrogate molecule. That decision is made collaboratively with the client and the CMO. However, rather than anticipating alone, it's best to collect data when changes are made to the container closure system.
Well said. I have a question for Anel. The question is, will the viscosity of the drug product affect break loose force and gliding in pre-filled syringes?
Actually, yes. We see definitely a trend of more viscous drugs today. And the viscosity of the drug can impact the break loose and the gliding forces. It will increase. The more viscous will be the product, the more the gliding forces and activation force will be. Usually, this is something we observe with any kind of plungers in pre-filled syringes. This is a question that we get very often from our customers, and for that, PremiumCoat have demonstrated some, especially with our 1 to 3 ml plungers, have demonstrated some good performances regarding multiple type of viscosity from 5 centipoise, but also 15 centipoise. We even tested at 40 centipoise, and this is some kind of information we have already communicated to some customers, and we'll be happy to share with other partners.
Thank you. Now I have another one for you. The question is, does the ETFE film on the stoppers protect the drug product if it's not compatible with bromobutyl rubber?
I would say that if a drug product is not compatible with bromobutyl, definitely using a coated stopper can be the good option. The barrier effect provided by the film itself will definitely ease the compatibility with the drug product, because the film will act as a filter of the potential extractable and leachable. So I think it could be a safe solution, and for that, Aptar can provide with our PremiumCoat some extractable files to show the performance of the stopper, but also what we can perform. And we have a company called NextBreath. They can perform leachable testing for customers to assess if the stopper and the drug product are compatible together.
That's great. We will end on that question. I want to give a huge thank you to everyone that joined today's webinar, and a thank you to our speakers, Steve Gardner, Dr. Jake Kranz, Arnaud Fournier, and Sebastian Cordier. To all of our viewers that are here, please keep your eyes out for my email, and don't forget to sign up for our other events, which you can do by going to berkshiresterilmanufacturing.com/sterilefilling101. I hope you took a lot away from this presentation, and I hope to see you again in our future webinars.